Story 1: Losing people. Loved ones passing away is the hardest. Then there's the nasty breakdown of personal relationships, family relationships, and friendships. Then there's the sad drifting apart that happens when life takes you on a different path from a person you were once really close to. Story 2: Realizing that not even your parents have all the answers and finally understanding that they were just figuring it out as they went, just like we are. Not having an all-knowing figure to give you the answers to all your problems is difficult, and I hate it. I just wanted to add that I agree figuring things out for yourself is rewarding and fun, but some things you really don't want to figure out for yourself or can't figure out. For those things, it's nice to have someone to point you in the right direction. Wow, I think this might be my most popular comment. Story 3: The endless teeny tiny implications of adult freedom. You have your own medical insurance plan now. You need to pick a primary care physician. Okay, who should I pick? Up to you. But like, where should I start? How do I know which doctor to choose? Up to you. How do other people find one? They just pick the one they like. I don't know any of these doctors. Story 4: Being able to not cook the same meal every day while balancing hundreds of other tasks is remarkable. I will always admire my mom for how she was able to cook, maintain a clean house, work 43 hours, and help her children with homework, all while taking time to work out at the end of every day. I could mention other common problems like money management and tasks that I haven't mastered, but what really struck me was the actual transition to adulthood. I'm talking about having to make my own appointments and keeping tabs on myself instead of handing every single document to my mom. I realized how disorganized I was when I found my birth certificate in the same drawer where I keep junk receipts. Story 5: Arthritis is horrible, and early onset autoimmune arthritis is worse than just having an ache in one or two joints. I heard all the time, everywhere, and everyone just assumes you're faking it or you're dependent on medication. I am not going to live another 20 years with this pain like my dad did. Story 6: Having a presentable place and debating myself on why it matters. It always frustrated me when my parents had a guest over and we had to deep clean the whole house. Like, if it's my close friend of 8 years visiting, why do I care what they care about my cleanliness? And yet, every time people are over, I find myself cleaning the apartment up for some reason. Story 7: How expensive living is. I worked all through high school, but my only bill was the gas I put in my car. 30 hours a week on minimum wage goes a long way on shopping sprees and nail salons when you don't have any other expenses. I developed nasty spending habits, not the value of a hard-earned dollar my parents were hoping for. I'm not in crippling debt or anything, but sometimes having to spend money on groceries or utilities depresses me more than it rationally should. Story 8: The increasing speed of passing years. Having nieces only makes the problem worse. Their age and the perceived number of years passed do not align at all for me. Story 9: Drifting away from school friends because of moving away, but then struggling to make new friends in a new city. Wow, I didn't expect to wake up to recognition and awards. Thank you, kind strangers. Story 10: In my mind, my mom should be about 40. She has always seemed to be so strong, but sometimes I want to fall apart when I see her take several attempts to stand up or make excuses about driving on the interstate. She will be 70 soon, but to me, she is still young. I don't know what I'll ever do without her. Story 11: Realizing some friends are toxic and you shouldn't be friends with them anymore. Edit. Holy moly, this blew my inbox up. And thanks for the gold. Just remember, you deserve to be happy, and if people are actively trying to take that away or hinder it, reassess that relationship. You don't need to end it immediately, but definitely take time to really think about it. Story 12: My job is destroying my mental health, but I need a job so I can pay my bills. If I reduce my hours for a better work-life balance, I lose my insurance during a global pandemic. Story 13: Preparing for retirement. Of course, everyone knows they will stop working at some point, but now that I am 40, it feels like I really need to get it together. Am I going to continue bad habits that negatively impact my health, or will I finally make changes to be healthier later? My new favorite worry: will I really have enough money to retire and live comfortably enough to have a good quality of life? 10 years ago, this all seemed so far away. Now, It feels like I am speeding to the next phase of my life. Story 14, the snowball effect of poverty. Every major bill or unexpected emergency, such as those costing over $500, takes you back 6 months to a year. Feels like you're on an escalator made of mud. Story 15. When you're not in school surrounded by your peers, meeting new people and making friends is much harder and, in many cases, almost impossible. And dating is a whole other ball game. Then again, for a lot of us, that isn't too different from how high school was anyway. Story 16. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't feel like an adult. Being single and childless at 30 doesn't help. Most days, I feel like a kid playing dress-up. I wasn't expecting that. Story 17. Having to be the one who made the call on an ailing elderly pet. In the middle of COVID-19, so I couldn't even be in the room for it. I'm sure it's nothing compared to what people with loved ones who have passed are going through, but man, that sucked. Story 18. Getting dumped by someone you've been dating as an adult after months of thinking, you know, this one is different. I really think we can make this work. Writing for a friend, of course. Story 19. Medical issues and the costs associated with them. I went from a late 20s guy with no issues other than the occasional cavity to a late 30s guy with spondylolysis, obstructive sleep apnea, anxiety, restless leg syndrome, and hypertension in under 10 years. It's crazy that I am taking medications and trying to improve my health because my doctor said I could die in 20 years if I don't shape up. Seriously, I just want to drink beer, play guitar, hang out with my wife, and maybe smoke some weed now and then. But these last years have hit me like a ton of bricks. And from what I understand, it keeps getting worse. Story 20. How dark life actually is. Like, is this all we do? Just grind away at jobs we try to care about, but no one else cares about, barely able to afford our bills, houses, debts, constantly struggling with relationships and trauma and watching our political system fail us, our country fail us, our systems fail us. Like, this life is not what happy adolescent me dreamed it would be. Sorry to get real dark on you all. Story 21. Having my daughter diagnosed with a brain tumor. There was no way to ever prepare for that. Thank you, everyone, for the kind words. Her diagnosis was almost 5 years ago, and she is doing fantastic now. I'll give a little backstory to answer some questions. She was 5 years old when she was diagnosed with an optic nerve glioma, or a tumor on her optic nerve, and had fully lost all vision in her left eye by the time it was discovered. She had absolutely no symptoms at all that we were able to see. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and she wasn't falling, tripping, getting lightheaded, or having headaches. We found out when her dad and I were doing a craft with her, and she made a pirate periscope out of a paper towel roll. When she held it up to her one eye, she said she couldn't see anything. After covering her eye and asking questions, we believed her. What sealed it for us was when we covered her other eye and shined a flashlight into the bad eye. Instead of her pupil constricting in response, it dilated to almost the entire size of her iris. We panicked naturally and took her to the emergency room. Within 30 minutes, she and I were in a helicopter heading to a large city children's specialty hospital, with my husband driving to meet us there. She had the symptoms of a traumatic brain injury, and that was outside the realm of what our small local hospital could even begin to handle. We arrived about an hour and a half before my husband and had all testing done when he came in. We had an answer. An optic nerve glioma that had atrophied her optic nerve, and the grape-sized tumor was starting to push out her eye. Externally, there were no visual symptoms. Then we met with a neurologist, neurosurgeon, and neuro-oncologist. We were given options and decided to go with a combination of 2 different chemotherapy drugs. One that is commonly used with that type of tumor, and the other had just come out of clinical trials and was showing some success at restoring vision. She did 12 months of every other week chemotherapy and handled it like a champion. The blood supply to the tumor was killed, and it reduced in size by about half. She is still totally blind in that eye, but you cannot tell by looking at or watching her. She's a straight-A student, plays sports, and is an extremely talented artist. We still have to see half a dozen specialists, neurologist, neuro-oncologist, oncologist, endocrinologist, ophthalmologist, etc. But she is thriving and happy. Story 22. My doctor's office regularly communicates with my insurance company to make sure they get paid. My pharmacy regularly communicates with my insurance company to make sure they get paid. My insurance company denies a prescription because they haven't received a prior authorization request from the doctor and don't want to pay the pharmacy for my prescription. I arrive to pick up said prescription, only to be told it's $150 instead of $30. When I ask why it's $150 instead of the usual $30, the pharmacist tells me that insurance won't pay because of this prior authorization form and I need to get it from my doctor. My doctor tells me the pharmacy has to request it be sent to the insurance company so they can get paid. Everyone I talk to seems to know exactly the sequence of steps that has to happen, who has the information, and where it needs to go. They do it all the time. So the problem? Why don't they just do it? They each expect me to know these things and be ready to chase down each person to either submit a request, fill out a form, and send it where it should go. I, with no knowledge of the inner workings of medical billing, am expected to not only know all of these things but coordinate the entities that actually do know these things. The American healthcare system is frustrating. Anyone who believes we have a good system, I want some of whatever hallucinogenic drugs you've managed to get your insurance company to pay for. Story 23. Dental costs are not only expensive, but they also offer so much more choice. Unlike a broken arm, where you have to get it fixed, a chipped tooth or other minor needs are up to you. Even the dentist will say, it's up to you. On top of that, dental insurance is about the worst thing, and it also seems arbitrary. A $900 night guard that doesn't actually fix the problem and will likely still lead to major issues in the future? Sure, no problem, insurance paid in full. $2,000 on realignment to actually fix the thing causing the grinding issue? No way, you are over 19. Story 24. The hassle of making easy food. It feels so much easier to just go out and get food than to make the food at home. I don't lack food at home. I just can't be bothered to cook it. Story 25. The lack of clear objectives in life. As a kid, your parents tell you to do one thing so you can do another. School is about chasing grades and measured accomplishments with clear and distinct steps to success. After school, it's all arbitrary. Yes, people say work hard so you can make money, but there are no clear pathways. Everything seems circuitous, and having goals barely helps inform how to achieve them. Also, you can work your hardest and still be broke. Story 26. I was in no way prepared for the fact that one dark, horrific day I would sit on my own balls, which is definitely something someone should have mentioned. It left me feeling different somehow. Story 27. Having a gorgeous woman you are crazy about and very turned on by in bed, and having your penis not cooperate. No, it's not you. You're the best thing ever. I'm tired, and my chronic pain is flaring up. I had 3 drinks instead of 2, and I'm in my 30s. Come on, little soldier. Fight the good fight. Story 28. The moment you really realize that you will be working almost every day for the rest of your life, not that work is bad, but it is a very daunting thought. Story 29. The constant feeling of loneliness and feelings of inadequacy as you feel life has passed you by and you're not sure why you're still around, but you are just existing and nothing else. Story 30. Firstly, the idea that you can be whatever you want to be is incorrect career-wise. Secondly, for some people, no matter how hard or smart they work, they may still be destined to a life of poverty through no fault of their own, because unfortunate events happen. Story 31. The ignorance of people in high places. I used to think at a younger age that someone was where they were due to being the best person for that position or the most qualified. Now I see it's more about who, tenure, false perceptions, and ratios, to name a few. Story 32. You can work full-time and still not have enough money for everything you need. I never worried about that as a kid because I always figured I would have a good job. And I do. Story 33. When I would drink a lot during college, I would wake up the next day and feel totally fine. I thought maybe I was immune to hangovers. Then, at some point in my late 20s, they started to hit me and hit me hard. Story 34. How to determine if your partner is enough. Life can be so stressful sometimes that you and your partner do not communicate correctly, and you don't know if it's because you're not meant to be or if you are both just overwhelmed. Story 35. Being a passenger to my life. I feel in many ways, I'm still just a passenger to my existence. Many times, I feel so powerless and unable to effect a meaningful change in my life that I'm just watching it go by. I don't feel like I'm good at anything. My interests seem more and more fleeting day after day, and I struggle to find the motivation to be motivated. There's so much wonder in the world, and yet I don't feel like I know how to really experience it. There are so many options, and it feels like they are all simultaneously available while being off limits. It just fuels my analysis paralysis, and I stay in my dull loop. I guess this is a summary for dealing with depression as an adult and realizing it doesn't just magically one day go away. Story 36. Basically being alive. No joke. I never planned on living this long. I'm 24 now, 5 years past what I thought would be my end. I'm so sorry that so many of you feel the same way about yourselves. I hope you either find your peace or a reason to live, however small. Meanwhile, plan as if you're going to live until 70 so you're not stuck up the creek without a paddle. Stay safe. I love all of you.